Hey, welcome. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering, your home for just real nuts and bolts guitar learning. Hey, are you tired of just not knowing the inner workings of music? You can play a few chords, you can play a few songs, but you don't really understand what you're doing. It's like you're in a boat and you're floating over the water, but it's all just black. You don't really know how you're getting from one place to the other, why one thing is working and why another isn't. Okay? Well, a little bit of that has to do with how music works. How is it put together? This is not some big mystery. There's an organization to it. There's a pattern to it. And so that's what we're going to talk about for the next 4 sessions of these lessons. We're going to have 4 lessons, and we're going to have workouts to actually go with everything that I'm talking about. Now, before we get started, there is a PDF that goes along with this lesson. You can find the link in the YouTube description down below. And we're going to be talking about the things that are in that PDF, okay? And we're talking about how music works. Now, it's true for guitar, it's true for piano, it's true for a flute or a trumpet. It's all the same. That's what we're going to talk about. Where we're going to go is we're going to learn about scales. We're going to learn about intervals. We're going to learn about keys and key signatures and why they're important. And we're going to eventually get into chords and triads and spelling a chord. You know, a C chord is not just this shape out of your Mel Bay chord Bible. A C chord is made up of certain tones. And so we're going to learn what those tones are. Wouldn't it be helpful for you in your own musical learning to be able to look at any chord and instantly know what notes are in that chord and what notes would go in that key? That would be really helpful. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to kind of take the curtain back and show you the inner workings of music. So it doesn't have to be dry, it doesn't have to be boring. We're going to talk about, if you know a little bit about how music works, man, your music can really come alive. And a lot of guys, they kind of know a little bit of this and a little bit of that. We're going to start from the foundation and get you what you need to know so that you're not confused about what's happening with music and how things are being put together. So where do we start with that? The first place we start on that is talking about half steps and whole steps. All right, so what are half steps and whole steps in music? Well, here's the deal. The musical alphabet goes from A to G. So I can't tell you to play an H, an M, a P, anything like that, but I can sure tell you to play an A or a B or a C or a D, something like that. So the musical alphabet goes from A to G, and then it just keeps repeating, okay? Now, there's an organization to these notes that is very important, and part of that has to do with half steps and whole steps, their relationships to each other. So if you've noticed on a piano, even on the page 1 of our PDF there, I've got a little piano diagram there. You have white keys and black keys on a piano. Now, you'll notice between the white keys are the black keys, but it's not like between every 2 white keys is a black key. There's a certain rhythm to it, a certain spacing to it. So here's the deal. If I go from one note to the next white key, let's say that from A to a B, there's a black key in between. That's one whole step, 2 frets worth on a guitar. A to a B. That is one whole step, okay? A half step is half that distance, so it's just 1 fret's worth. So if you're anywhere on the guitar and you go from one note to 1 fret up from that, that is a half step, whether it's here, the distance from here to here, the distance from here to here, it's all a half step. Now, if I have 2 half steps put together, we have a whole step. All right, so here's the gig with that. In our musical alphabet that goes from A to G, there's only 2 places that it's going to be a half step. We're not talking about sharps and flats just yet. We haven't gotten to those yet. Don't worry about those. We're talking about just the white keys on the piano, okay? There's only 2 places where there are 2 white keys next to each other. And this is very important for you to know. Between E and F and between B and C. Those are the only 2 places, we're not talking sharps and flats, but those are the only 2 places that there is no black key in between, no fret in between. It's just one step next to each other. So we call those naturally occurring half steps. Naturally occurring half steps. Everything else, a note going to its neighbor, is going to be a whole step. Okay, so let's practice that. So if I said to you, hey, what's the distance from an A to a B? That would be a whole step, because the only two naturally occurring half steps are between B and C and E and F. Okay, so A to B, that would be a whole step. What about from B to C? What would that one be? Well, that's one of our naturally occurring half steps, B to C. There's no note in between. What about from C to D? What would that be? That would be a whole step. What about D to E? That would be a whole step. What about E to F? That's our other pair of notes. Remember, it's between B and C and E and F. If you don't hear any of those two pairs, it's a whole step. Okay, so E to F, that's a half step. But an F to a G is a whole step. G to A is a whole step. Everything is going to be a whole step, except for E and F, B and C. That's what I want you to understand. E and F and B and C. Those are the two pairs that are just naturally occurring half steps. Anything else from a note to its neighbor, an F to a G to an A, F to a G to an A to a B, those are all whole steps. It's only between B and C that it's a half step. C to D, D to E. All right, that's whole steps and half steps. All right, so now that we've kind of got that, let's talk about how sharps and flats work. I can take any note, let's say I have this C right here, and I can either raise it up one half step, we call that sharp, C sharp, that's that little number sign that you'll see. So this would be a C sharp. It's a C, but it's adjusted a half step up. And I can go the other way too. Let's say I'm on this D, and let's say I wanted to go to D flat. Well, flats go down this way. These are flats and sharps are just adjustments to the notes. D flat. So these are the in-between notes. These are the black keys on your piano. So a C sharp and a D flat are actually pointing to the same note on your instrument, whether it's guitar or flute or piano or whatever. Okay? But the naming of it tells you what orientation it's coming from. All right, so let's practice half steps and whole steps for just a second. All right? You see if you can type it into the chat or answer back with me, okay? So if I'm, excuse me, if I am in, if I want to go from an F to a G, an F to a G, is that a half step or a whole step, do you think? Think it out. An F to a G. Well, that would be a whole step. That would be a whole step. Okay? What if I said, hey, what about an F sharp to a G? Okay, well then now I've scooted that F closer to the G, so an F sharp to a G would be not a whole step. An F sharp to a G would be a what? A half step, okay? That's how that works. What if I did maybe a C to a D? C to a D. What do you think that one would be? A half step or a whole step? A C to a D. Well, C to a D, none of them are sharps or flats, so that's a whole step right there, okay? What if I said a B to a C? A B to a C. Well, that is a half step. Remember, that's one of our naturally occurring half steps. Okay, tricky. What if I said a B flat to a C? If a B to a C is a half step, a B flat to a C, which now I've pushed that B farther away from that C. A B flat to a C would be a whole step. Okay? Now, let's look at this another different way. If I have a C to a D, that's a whole step. We know that. C to a D is a whole step. All right, what about a C sharp to a D sharp? Well, I've moved both of these up the same amount, so it hasn't changed. It's still a whole step. So a C sharp to a D sharp is still a whole step. Okay, C, if C to D is a whole step, then C sharp to D sharp is a whole step as well. So that's half steps and whole steps. Okay, now we're going to use these half steps and whole steps to create a scale. Okay, what is a major scale? Well, a major scale is a specific pattern of half steps and whole steps. And a scale, guys, a scale is like the alphabet. It's the foundational building blocks of everything in music. So don't think of it as just this boring. Why is that important? Why bother learning that? Cluttering up your mind learning this. Okay? Well, the reason we learn the scale, and I'm not talking about how you play this scale, I'm talking about just whatever the scale is. Okay, which is true for any instrument that you would play. It's a specific pattern of half steps and whole steps that, when played in that order, it derives a major scale, and you get all of the notes in that key, which is all of the notes that are safe to play in the key of C. All right, so here we go. Let's do a C scale. Now, the pattern, I've got a little graphic that's going to come up on the screen there for a C scale. The pattern is, this is important, another important thing is whole step, half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. 2 wholes and a half, 3 wholes and a half. I know it can get confusing. I'm sorry. Whole, half, whole, half. Whole step, half step, 2 wholes and a half, and then 3 whole steps, and then another half step. And there you have a major scale. So if I started on a C right here, and then I just do the whole steps and half steps all the way up, okay? Now, we're not going to show every one of them on the screen. We're going to just show you the scale when it's done. But you think it out with me. What is a whole step above a C? What is a whole step above a C? Well, remember right back where we were just talking about half steps and whole steps. A whole step above a C would be a D, okay? Whole step up from C is a D, okay? So that would be the next note. Now I need another whole step up from a D now. What's a whole step up from a D? That one would be an E, okay? A, B, C, D, E, okay? So far we have C, D, E. Now we've already done 2 wholes. Now I need to do a half step. What is a half step above an E? All right, half step above an E. Well, that's one of our naturally occurring half steps. E to F is a half step. C, D, E, F. That's what we have so far. Whole step, half step. Now I need another whole step above an F. What's another whole step above an F? Look at all you guys typing it into the chat as we're doing it live. I love it. I love it. Okay? Whole step above an F is a G. That's our first of our second 3. Now I need another whole step. Okay? G, what's up from G? Another whole step is an A. And now I need a third whole step. What's a whole step up from A? Would be a B. And now I need a half step up, for the very last one. What's a half step up from a B? Is a C. Okay, so now we're going to show you the entire scale, and you'll see how it worked out. What we did is we built up from that C the whole scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So we built a C major scale. Okay? That's important. That is all the letters, all the notes that are going to sound good in the key of C. So it's not a mystery what's going to sound good in the key of C. That's it right there. That's what's going to sound good. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Do you see what we did? We started on a note and we just plugged in the formula. 2 whole steps, half step, 3 whole steps, and a half step. We just plugged in the formula. Okay, so now we ended up with the scale written out right there. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The first and last notes match. Everything works great. Now, as we do this on some other ones, we're going to have to adjust some of these notes in order to get the scale to work out properly. So let's do another scale. Let's do a G scale. So we're going to build a major scale on a G now. Okay, so take a look at that graphic there. we're going to start on the G. Now we need a whole step above a G. What's a whole step above a G? An A. What's a whole step, another whole step now, over an A to a B. Okay, now I need a half step. Okay, what's a half step above a B? That's one of our naturally occurring half steps, B to C. Okay, so far we have G, A, B, C. Now, let me just pause you right now. I know some of you are really thinking, some of you are rolling your eyes and going, man, I just want to play. Don't teach me all this stuff. This is the foundation of music. Okay, these are the building blocks of music. If you don't want to bother learning this stuff, then there's not much you're going to be able to learn unless you understand these basic principles there. So don't resist learning these simple things, okay? So we're doing our G scale. Hang with me. Try and learn this. You can do this. This is not beyond your ability. We're stretching your ability here. Think with me. Okay, we're back to our G scale. We already did a whole step up to A, a whole step up to B. Now we did a half step up from B to get to a C. Okay, now I need 3 more whole steps. What's a whole step above a C? That would be a D. What's a whole step above a D? That would be an E. And now I need another whole step, our last whole step, our third last whole step. I need a whole step above an E. Well, now wait a minute. A whole step above an E, well, it's going to be some kind of an F, but an F is just a half step. So I need to push that F farther up, farther away from that E in order to make this work. I have to sharp it to get it to work in the formula. I need a whole step. E to F is just a half step, so I'm going to have to push that F farther away. So that becomes an F sharp for that last whole step. All right, so now I'm standing on an F sharp, and I need a half step from an F sharp. Well, half step from an F sharp would be a G. Okay, an F to a G. That's one of our whole step. But now I'm not on an F. I'm on an F sharp, so I'm closer to that G. So we ended up, if we look at the entire scale there, we ended up with forming a G major scale, which we had a G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then a G. Okay, so what we created there is a G major scale. Okay, but look what happened there. Along the way, in the key of G, I've got now one sharp, and that sharp is F sharp. So I have to remember, every time I'm in the key of G, a song is in G or something like that, then I'm going to have an F sharp in it, that all the Fs are sharped. There's no F naturals. It's all going to be F sharps if I'm going to stay in the key of G. That's what defines the key of G, is that pattern with the F sharp in it.